For the past 3 years, I've been suffering from chronic debilitating eczema. My eczema was so bad at one stage, I developed sepsis in my blood. Had I not been hospitalized and put on steroids and antibiotics, the doctor said I would have died in the next week. For the past 100 days, I've only eaten meat. Doctors say eczema is incurable, but I've proven 99% of doctors wrong. There are hundreds out there who have cured their autoimmune diseases through the carnivore diet. I am one of them.
Hi there, and welcome to another video. Thank you for tuning in. Okay, so welcome to another success story. Today I've got Bradley Marshall, who I saw on the internet and was so touched by the story. I just had to contact him and get him on. So hi, Bradley.
Hey, Stephen. Pleasure to be on this show.
Thank you. Well, it's really nice to meet you. And everyone knows I do short, sharp videos, so I'm going to get straight into to what we want to talk about, and that's about skin, which is the biggest organ on the body. So, and you've had problem with skin for a long time. So I just want to firstly ask you, when did you first start having problems with your skin?
Well, to be honest with you, I've always had problems with my skin. Since I was about 3 months old, my mum told me later on in life that, yeah, your eczema's been here since you were born, like 3 months old, you had it there. But it's always been somewhat manageable. I mean, like growing up, I've always been aware of it, and I was always been hiding it like from my peers because they've always looked at it and thought, what's that on your body? And it always made me insecure as a kid, but it was manageable. But in the last 3 years, that's when it became really terrible. It became debilitating and just stole me of my whole life, like to the point where I really had to quit my job. I was teaching music and I just had to quit because I could no longer like reach an octave on the piano anymore because my fingers were so bad. And there's pictures of it on my Instagram. Like it was so bad that I couldn't even stretch to reach the octave. There was a period of time where I actually thought, I love music. It's my passion. I'm primarily a musician, but I think I have to change careers because I just can't perform anymore because my fingers are so bad. I just couldn't move. And so that was the last 3 years of my life. It just stole me of my life completely. And it was debilitating. I was just in bed. I was just miserable. But that whole time I was thinking to myself, I don't know how long this is going to last. Like there was a period where I was thinking, am I just going to get worse and worse until I get to about 60, 70, and then I'm going to die like this? No, this can't be it. So like I've been in and out of doctors for 20 years. They give me steroid creams, which is a whole another can of worms in itself, because you apply steroid creams, it's a transient solution. It helps you in the short amount of time, but in the long term, no, it just makes you worse and it exacerbates it. And I could go into it, but yeah, that's a long story as well. So I just gave up on really the doctor's treatments because nothing was working. It was all transient solutions. It's like a Band-Aid fix. And a lot of people in the eczema community know this. It just fixes you transiently, but not long-term. So I said to myself, you know what, this is 3 years of pain. Like 3 years in retrospect, I didn't know how long it was going to be. I just said, I'm going to be like this, imprisoned, getting worse. I'm only 26. I can't live like this. I have to find a solution. So I experimented with so many different things. Even now, it's not just the carnivore diet. Like I primarily eat meat. So that's what I came across by finding Michaela Peterson online, because she has rheumatoid arthritis and she suffered her whole life. And she takes a lot of the drugs that eczema sufferers take, like methotrexate, which is a cancer drug. It suppresses the immune system. See, it's an ongoing trend. All of these medicines that Western medicine suggests are immunosuppressants. Like I've been using Alidel cream 20 years of my life, putting it on my face. And just recently I looked up online, what are the side effects of Alidel? They say, please don't use this cream for longer than a year, because there are studies that link it to excess use of it can actually correlate it with skin cancer, lymphoma. And I said, well, that's just great, because the doctors have been giving it to me for 20 years and they never even brought that up. So at the moment, I'm cold turkey. I'm happy to say that I'm not on any cream. And so there was a period of time for about 50 days where it actually just broke out. My face looked terrible. My skin looked terrible. Most likely what what you'd call topical steroid withdrawal. But I'm going in a roundabout way. But basically, I had this delusional quality about me that I said in other podcasts, that I just can't stand these transit solutions. I don't think, I truly believe that there is a solution. I don't think I'm going to be like this for the rest of my life. There has to be a way out. If there's a problem, if I'm succumbing, I'm encompassed by this debilitating illness, there has to be a way out of it. And so I kept on looking. I went through so many different treatments. I started with cold water therapy, which I still do to this day. It's 4 things that I've come across. Many things I've tried, but these 4 things are the things that really fixed me up. And even this morning, I woke up at 7 a.m. before this podcast, had a sauna, which is one of the things, cold water therapy, which just reactivates your immune system, makes you feel great, replenishes your skin. The salt is just so beneficial. And carnivore diet, which is just eating meat, so good if you want to eliminate, because food triggers you. There's so many things, not just the fungicides and the herbicides and the what do you call it? All of the stuff, the preservatives that they put in the food. Not just that. Actually, like Paul Saladino, who's a doctor who wrote the Carnivore Code, talks about vegetables and how another whole topic is, when animals, when you eat animals, their defense mechanism is to either attack you or run away. Vegetables can't do that, so they have their own form of defense, which is through toxins inside the vegetable, which is polyphenols, oxalates, salicylates. So those actually attack your immune system, and for people like me who are immunocompromised, just inflame me more than other foods. So if you have immunocompromised immune systems, you want to try things like the carnivore diet. They're great for elimination. So long story short, those 4 things just cured me up. I couldn't accept that there was no solution. I had to find something. I came across these 4 things, and 155 days it is now, or 156 days later, I'm just in the best state I could ever hope for. So, there's always a solution. I truly believe that.
Yeah. So the 4 things are sauna. Is that a red sauna? Is it red light sauna?
Yeah, that's right. A sauna with red light therapy.
Yeah. Cold water. Is that a plunge? Right. Is that what you're doing?
Yeah. So I like salt water. So I like going in the ocean. In Melbourne, which I live in Australia, it's right on the bottom of Australia, so it's quite cold. Even now, it's November, so it's actually spring, but it's still freezing. It's still freezing in the water. It's about 11 degrees Celsius. Do you use Celsius in the UK?
We do a bit. I'm still Fahrenheit. I have to convert Celsius to Fahrenheit to know how cold or hot something is.
Oh, like 0 is, freezing temperature. So
yes.
Turning ice. So it's pretty cold. But yeah, during the winter, I'm trying to go every single day. So even in the winter, like when I came out of the ocean, I'd just be back in the car like,
And what is the 4th thing? I don't think we got to the 4th thing. Sauna, cold water, carnivore.
Sauna, cold dips, exercise, so working out.
You're working out as well, right?
So those are the main 4 things that I try to maintain. But of course, stress reduction as well, sleeping, water. There's many things, holistic health. Yeah.
Brilliant. So you mentioned it got really bad about 3 years ago. Was there a particular trigger that made it really bad all of a sudden?
Yeah, I mean, it got bad in 2020 March. So I was thinking at the time, what is the cause of this? Because COVID just came out, in Melbourne, we just started being locked down inside of our houses. So I was thinking maybe it's the fact that we're not seeing as much vitamin D because I'm stuck in the house all day, or maybe there's a lot of dust in the house. And people were saying it's stress. I'm not one to get very stressed. So, and I was stressed during high school as well, during they call it VCE here, which is like year 11 and 12. So I didn't think it was the stress. I was thinking at the time, what if it's the increase in EMF because they were making the transition to 4G to 5G, and people say, "Oh, that's fine." But I was analyzing every single possible thing what it could be. But in retrospect now, I think what it really is I was on these drugs for 25 years, and it just got to a point where my body can't take it anymore. And when I was younger, I could take it because I was, I guess, young and healthier, and my body, my metabolism, my immune system could handle it. But after 25 years, my body just said, you know, I can't take this anymore. And it just not give up, it didn't give up, but it just like, just can't handle it. So it just exploded into all of this eczema just unleashing itself.
Yeah,
You know?
I mean, it's amazing. One of the things, I've got a few clients that I've coached that have seen resolutions. The most common thing I heard, I don't know if you experienced this, they couldn't sleep because of itchiness. I mean, was that something you? Yeah,
That's one of the worst things, sleep deprivation. I mean, even now that I'm cured, I mean, like, I say I'm cured, but there's still a level of like PTSD. I'm not gonna, it's not exactly PTSD, but just like for 3 years, I was afraid to go to sleep because I couldn't sleep. You see, all through the night, I'd be like, I'm probably going to wake up, and then you think you're going to wake up, and so that's a mental game as well. And then not just that, your whole skin's on fire. It feels like there's ants crawling, and you're burning, and it's like you just can't sleep. And so what I'd do for that whole 3 years, I'd get up in the middle of the night and I'd work out because I was just so frustrated that I couldn't sleep. You know, if I can't sleep, I'm just going to work out. So it carries on a bit to this day. I mean, like I can sleep well, but the thing is, there's still remnants of the last 3 years. It's just like, I don't know, like shell shock in a way. But I don't know. I'm like, I couldn't sleep, and so going to bed now, there's always that remnant of, okay, no, you're safe now. You can sleep. You can get through it. So yeah.
So how long have you been carnivore? So it's about 100. How many days? 156 days, did you say?
Days, yeah.
Yeah. And how did you stumble across it then?
Yeah, so I was at the gym and a guy said to me, you know, you should try this carnivore diet, you should look into it. So I was already listening to Jordan Peterson. I was aware of his daughter, Michaela Peterson, going through the carnivore diet and curing herself. So, you know what, I was like, I was still skeptical at the time because I didn't know what would happen to me. I was still, I thought perhaps it could cause colon cancer and maybe clog my arteries. Like, I didn't know what would happen. So I just did a deep dive into it. I looked up Paul Saladino. I started doing all this research into people with eczema who cured themselves. I said, wow, this could actually work. So yeah, I read The Carnivore Code by Paul Saladino, and he has eczema himself. So it was just fascinating. It just smoothed out and alleviated all of the qualms I had of whether the carnivore diet actually causes colon cancer or constipation. Like he proves it with clinical studies that it's all false and unfounded, really.
Yes.
All of these studies on the carnivore diet that, like, all of these statements that say that eating meat just causes cancer, they're all based on epidemiological studies.
Yeah. Yes.
Which are not really founded. They're very like loosely correlated. And I think Dr. Sean Baker actually just released a study just recently saying how it's very loose, unfounded, sketchy science.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, I will put some links in the show notes from the studies that pretty much debunk all the myths. So you're on solid ground there talking about that. And I mean, you know, the American Heart Association and the US dietary guidelines, they've all reversed their opinion, and they're all sort of pulling away, but not admitting they've made mistakes. So things like cholesterol is not a nutrient of concern. They say that now. Saturated fat isn't, but they don't make a big song and dance about it. So I love the fact that people that go carnivore get a little bit political and a little bit into the fact we've been a bit misled. But I don't really want to talk about that at the moment. I want to talk about you and your resolution from, but it does make your, well, it sort of opens your eyes to the nutritional science and how bad it is actually. So you found Michaela Peterson via Jordan Peterson and obviously Paul Saladino, and you felt convinced. So how long did it take for you to suddenly think, wow, this is actually working? Was it quite quick? Was it a few months?
Yeah, so I think it took me about 7 weeks to just sitting on the carnivore diet. I knew that it wasn't going to work instantaneously. I knew that I'd have to try it for at least 30 days to really see an outcome. So yeah, at the start, I was still having avocados and coconuts because I wasn't sure if I'd be constipated or not. And so, but after a while, I actually removed that, eliminated that from my diet as well. So these days, I'm actually just having just meat. Occasionally coconut and avocado because they're keto friendly. Um, if I, because mentally sometimes it's just monotonous to just have meat all the time. So I allow myself to have a bit of variation by having those coconuts and avocados and honey, because I write a list of things that aren't meat that doesn't trigger me, so that because if I eat things that are just completely outside the carnivore diet, like, I don't know, some fried foods, it just triggers me. And so I have this list of things I can eat that I know it's going to mildly trigger me, but not so much that I won't be able to sleep for the next 2 days or so.
Yeah. Is there anything in carnivore that you've had to avoid? Have you found anything problematic?
Yeah, to be honest, yes, a lot actually. Eggs, tallow. I mean, like all of the butter and milk. I actually don't have milk, cheese, butter, eggs because they inflame me quite a lot. So it's really, I say carnivore diet, but because I'm including, it's more keto slash lion diet. So lion diet is what Caleb Peterson's on, which is a subset of the carnivore diet. Basically just salt, lamb, cow, and water. But it's also slash keto because I'm allowing those subsets of fruits as well.
So what's a sort of week of eating look like? Do you do 1 meal a day, 2 meal a day? What's your sort of way of eating?
2 meals a day. So I fast every morning, like because there's such benefits to fasting as well. So when it was really bad, like my sister was saying to me, you don't really have to settle for the carnivore diet. You can heal yourself just by doing a 10-day fast. But 10-day fast is really extreme for me. So I ended up doing like a 2.5-day fast. So, but even today, so the standard day for me, I don't eat breakfast. I eat my first meal around 12 p.m., like mid-afternoon, and then I have another meal about 7 p.m. And usually that's always centered around meat. And then if I'm a bit peckish afterwards, because I feel like I need some electrolytes or a bit of magnesium or calcium in, say, the fruit, I'll have an avocado and a coconut. And if I really want it, I'm having like sugar cravings because like I still live with my parents, and they sometimes have mangoes and these beautiful cakes that they're eating in front of me, and I'm like, oh damn, I wish I could have that. So I just have a spoonful of raw honey that I get from the dairy farm, the actual farmer's market. So nothing from, because that's always full of sugar and it's a bit processed. So I have raw honey.
Yeah. Okay. It's cool. So you're mostly lion, basically, with the odd
Basically
sort of.
lined with a subset of fruits. Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you a question I think you might not have been asked. I mean, I know I've seen you a few times because your story is very inspirational. And I've already confessed that I play the piano quite badly. On my YouTube channel, I actually murder a few songs. What
sure
about your...
great.
No, I'm really not. Your piano playing, do you feel that that's improved? Because obviously, you had it on your hands. Did you feel like it was restrictive in any way? Do you feel it was got better?
Yeah, I mean, there was a period of time, like I was saying before we started recording, where like for 3 years I was in debilitating pain and I couldn't really move my hands, and my source of income was teaching. And so like every single lesson I was struggling to just even reach the octave, and really I was embarrassed, and embarrassment is just the least of my worries because I was in pain every single time I was playing. The kids were saying to me, oh, if I practice the piano as much as you, is my hand's going to end up like that? Like, no, this is my debilitating skin illness, which just to stem from that, just recently I was teaching, and one of the kids who was about 4 years old said, your hands are not red anymore. I'm like, yeah, isn't it great? But yeah, it was hard for me, really hard, because I love music. Like music's my passion. Now health is my passion as well, of course, because I've got my life back. But music's really been my passion. So there was a period of time for about 3 years where I really thought that maybe I can't play music anymore. Maybe this is going to be this for the rest of my life. I was seriously considering changing careers to something like coding, because I love problem solving, which you can see I've done with my whole body. But like, so I was thinking about doing something like coding. because
Mm.
on the wall there, I've got my first degree, which was in mechanical engineering. It's because I loved maths, and I'm good at maths, and I've loved problem solving. So I was thinking, but I loved music more. That eclipsed it, and so that's why I'm a full-time musician at the moment. But then I was thinking, if I can't do music because I love music so much, but this is restricting me, maybe my pathway, maybe my life meaning is to just do engineering, and I'm forced into it because I can't play.
Yeah.
But I'm so grateful. I've found a solution, and I'm working full time again.
Yeah, brilliant. Big smile there. I mean, I'd quite like to touch on the mental side of it. I mean, did you have periods where you were very depressed, and did you just look back and think, wow, what a change?
Yeah, this is a very interesting question. I remember 3 years ago, before it really happened, I was reading all these books like survivor stories of people who climb Mount Everest, and Edward Shackleton who goes into the Antarctic and gets lost for 2 years. And I was thinking to myself, like people who are young, my age, I was about 23 at this point in time, or 18 years old, like they go to war and they have these huge experiences where it's life threatening, and they go through a journey. And I was thinking to myself, like, I don't really have that in my life. Like, what's my journey? But then I guess I spoke too soon, because I was just plunged into this whole 3 years of misery. And I was reading all these survival books. So I was thinking to myself at the time, like, the first thing that came into my head was, oh my God, this is more than I really wanted. I don't know if I can get out of this. But, and then there was periods of time where like I love life so much. I like, just to this is like,
Mm.
talking about mental illness is a dark, heavy topic. But, in terms of eczema itself, there's 40% of people who have eczema. It's so severe that they have a 40% ideation rate of suicide, and I think 36%, if I'm not wrong, kill themselves, because it's just so debilitating. They like, I used to listen to all these podcasts of when I was in the worst periods of these 3 years. I was lying in bed, I couldn't move. I was listening to these podcasts by this girl called Abby, who she does this thing called Eczema Conquerors, and it's so therapeutic to listen to other people's stories. So this is why I'm kind of wanting to give back right now, is because I was listening to people like myself. The way I'm talking now, I was listening to hopeful stories of people who cured themselves, and I was thinking, well, I want to be like them. I just listening to their story gives you hope. And so when I was just lying in bed, yeah, this girl Abby was telling, like, there's these cancer patients who there's this score of like 0 to 1, where if you rank 1, that's like your quality of life is amazing. If you rank 0, your quality is awful. So people with cancer rate their lives of 0.3, and everyone who has eczema that is severe also rated their illness at 0.3 in terms of the pain threshold. The quality of life is so low, and so all the doctors were actually amazing. This is just a skin rash. This is just on the surface. Why they're rating their lives so low? But that's the thing. It's just so debilitating, and it just looks awful. The self-esteem's down out the window. You can't sleep, and it's just mentally you're going through purgatory, and it just never ends. So yeah, there was a whole period of time where, like, I was thinking, my quality of life is so poor. I'm like, I was in the moment. I don't like saying I was depressed, because there's a period of time when, I mean, like, as an aside, when I was studying mechanical engineering, I was kind of lost. I was trying to find myself long before I had eczema, like really severe eczema. And so there was a period of time where I allowed myself to just slip into this state of, I'm lost. I don't know where I'm going in life. And I got depressed, but it was like, I don't think I'm not actually like chemically depressed, but it was just a trigger to the actual circumstances that surrounded me. And so the same thing happened with the eczema. I was like, I know what happens when I allow myself to just slip down into this state of sadness. Like, it's paralyzing, and you feel numb, and you feel sad, and you don't want to do anything. And I thought to myself, this is such a shocking state of being right now, lying in bed. If I allow my mental state to succumb to how I was before I even had debilitating eczema, like, it could just get so bad that I might kill myself. So I can't allow myself and like as a rule, I can't allow myself to sink into this state of depression. I have to find a way out of this. So that's why I was bringing up the survival stories. Like, it was great that I was reading them before I got into this sort of despair and debilitating 3 years of purgatory, because I was thinking to myself, Edward Shackleton, he's so inspiring because he was there in the Antarctic, and for 2 years he had to lead this whole crew of team members that were doubting him and questioning his every motive. And it's a true story too. Like, they're stranded, they have frostbite on their feet, they're in the middle of the ocean, they don't even know where they're going, and for 2 years, and then they're stuck there, but they find a way out. So I was thinking to myself, I'm not even lost in the Arctic. I'm not in the World War II. There's no one shooting me. I'm just here in my bed, and if I stay still, I'm not in pain. But if I move, I'm in pain. So I've got to find a way out of this. And as I was saying to other people who have interviewed me, I've got this delusional quality where I just don't think that, like, I always think there's a solution no matter what. If there's a problem, there is a solution. Even if 99% of doctors say that you have to use these creams, this is the only way out, there is no cure for eczema, I say, I'm not going to swear, but BS,
Yeah,
So
yes.
I feel like it's a bullshit. That's not true. I don't think that, I really don't think that there is no cure. There is a cure. I'm going to find it. I'm going to prove you all wrong. And it's kind of like, in retrospect, it's kind of insane to think that, wow, like, all of these doctors say it's factual. Like, all these doctors say there's no cure, and to deny that is almost illogical. But for me, that's just my delusional quality. Like, I'm not going to accept that. I'm going to find a solution, and I did.
Yeah.
So, but just to finish off, touching on that, the whole mental side of it. Yeah, it was 3 years of just. It was really hard, but I just couldn't allow myself to sink into a state of depression, because you have to like, for myself, you have to be strong in your own mind, because if there's a solution, like, I don't know, like, I'm a tennis player when I was growing up, and so it's like, if you ever got anxiety when you were playing, like, it would be very quickly I'd hit the ball into the net. But if you're clear in your thinking, you don't even have to worry about it going into the net. Like, I love watching Djokovic when he plays. He's a bit controversial today, but I know, like, when he wants to hit the ball in the corner of the court, he will do it, because he's practiced that forehand hundreds of times, and it's just muscle memory, and his mind is so sharp. So I was thinking to myself, if I want to find a solution, if I'm depressed, if I'm really sinking into this state of just despair, then I won't be able to find anything, and I'll just be in hell, and I won't be able to climb out of hell. But if I have a clear mindset, if I just try things every single day, I'm not going to do the same thing all the time. I'm just going to settle on this. Maybe for 30 days, I'm going to try the carnivore diet. For this long, I'm going to jump into the ocean. So for me now, it's been a year of actually recently it's been every day, but it hasn't been consistently every day for the whole year. But I started last year diving into the ocean, even though it's freezing, because I said, a lot of these people can't find a cure. These doctors say there's no cure for eczema. You know why? Because they're not pushing it to the edge. They're not doing insane things, which I will try. I'm going to go into the ocean every single day. And there's success stories of people who have polio, who walk into this freezing ocean. They walk out of the ocean, and they walk into the ocean with like a limp. They come out walking normal, because it resets their immune system. I say, that's powerful. I was finding all these stories online. If I do that, maybe my immune system can be reset, and it really does help. So yeah, I was pushing myself to the edge. Carnivore diet, sauna every day, cold water therapy, exercise. I said, if I do all these things, maybe I will cure myself.
Yes.
So
And do you feel like going back and speaking to those doctors and saying, look at me, you said there was no cure, look, it's very frustrating. Yeah. I mean, I was told I'm 58 now. I was told at 23 I would be in a wheelchair by 50, by age 50. And I was shown a very convincing image of my hip. Absolutely, there was no doubt about it. And that's the problem I find with coaching, is I encounter people being told that all the time. There's no hope. And then they're confused when things start reversing, especially in diabetes. I deal with a lot of type 2 diabetics. They can't believe that they've been, kept away from the right advice for decades, some of them. and they're so frustrated. I get one coaching client a week at least say, "Why are you not pulling your hair out? Why are you not frustrated?" And I say, "I am, but I can't keep doing that because I'll have no hair." And it's stories like yours that help so many people, because in the end, you can't ignore people like you that have reversed conditions that you've been told you can't reverse. It's really a joy to speak to you, Bradley, about it. And yeah, I think the mental side is possibly what you said, a dark area to go into, but you give people hope. You see, this is the thing. And you found hope when you saw Michaela Peterson. So it's just a lovely virtuous circle. As more and more people see what's going on, they can take out all the inflammatory foods, take out the seed oils, those sort of things, and actually see improvements in their health. And it is frustrating because, you said you felt really dark, and to me, it's terrible, which is why I wanted to get you on, actually, because you're young as well. I mean, a lot of people, a lot of my followers are my sort of age. But I think if you can get to people when they're younger, they're going to have a long time. I didn't discover all this till I was, 49. I discovered low carb. And I think I dodged a bullet. I was getting pre-diabetic and having heart issues and gut issues and stuff like that. And anyway, it's not about me. So it's great that you did this. Have you got a couple more minutes to just go over a couple of other little bits? Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. So when you decided to try this, what was the reaction from your friends and family?
Well, I didn't want to tell my friends and family at the start, because I live with my parents. My parents obviously see everything I'm eating, so they were concerned at the start. They said, I'm concerned that yes, your eczema starting, even when it was starting to cure, to this day they still say things like you need to get some blood tests, because yes, you might be beautiful on the surface, but your heart might be playing up. But I will get some blood tests very soon. I'm just I'm going to get it very soon. But I highly doubt that. And Paul Saladino gets blood tests all the time, and his blood levels are fine. So many carnivores, the Inuit tribes, for instance, have been living for millennia on just eating meat, and they're absolutely fine. I looking back on how I had sepsis in my blood. I was in hospital, and the doctors were saying if you hadn't come in, you would have probably died in the next week. That is so much worse than I am now. I'm seriously not concerned about health in terms of what's happening to my body. I feel like my skin holistically is a reflection of what's happening inside my body. Before, the insides of my body was falling apart and you could see it through my skin. My skin looks great now. I feel I'm pretty convinced the insides of my body are fine also. But having said that, I'm also going to take some blood tests very soon to prove that I expect my LDL levels will be higher, but I'm pretty sure it'll be fine. Paul Saladino talks about LDL levels, even if they're high, that's like it's a false paradigm to think that it's actually bad for you. It's like correlating fire trucks at a fire at the scene of a fire and thinking that the fire trucks are the one causing it. Because I'm not going to get into it, but basically metabolic illness, if you have a dysfunctional body, that's the reason it gets sticky and sticks to the arteries, not because if you just have a normal functioning body and you're healthy and you're exercising, the LDL particles will not stick to the side of the arteries. They will actually just continue traveling through and you won't have heart disease.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, yeah, I didn't want to tell most people, because even now that I'm telling them what I'm doing, they're like, oh, your skin's so good, what are you doing? I'm like, well, I'm on the meat diet. And they say, oh, really? And most people I talk to, like 90% of people, are just so skeptical. I mean, and I can't blame them. I feel like most people have been fed this, I don't know what to call it, beyond propaganda, really, that meat is bad for you and it causes cancer. And so many people are just, I mean, brainwashed is a very inflammatory word, but they just don't know any better, because they haven't read the studies that clinical studies that Paul Saladino offers and all of these Sean Baker offers. It's just not available. I mean, like everywhere you go, especially in Australia, and I'm sure around the world, you see things like vegan diet, be healthier on veganism, cows are awful, mad cow disease, cancer, colon cancer, constipation, heart disease. I mean, I know when I was growing up, my parents wanted me to just eat meat twice a week because they said, red meat causes cancer, which is just untrue.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's interesting what you say, and I'm going to put a graph up in the corner right now, which will show you a big graph which shows you the average cholesterol level of all the population of the United States as it goes down and down and down and down as we go from year 2000 to 2023, and deaths, well, heart attack and heart deaths going up and up and up and up. So there is no tolerance. Yeah, it's a beautiful graph. I mean, I think Dr. Ken Berry picked up on it as well, and it got a lot of traction because it's clear as your cholesterol is lowering, because they're using cholesterol lowering drugs and they're getting you on low fat diets, heart deaths are going up and up and up. I know that doesn't prove anything, but it's pretty convincing. So I'll put that graph up for you.
Yeah.
And I'm a qualified phlebotomist, so if you get your bloods and you want to go through it and have a carnivore take on what's happening in your body, I'm quite happy to hook up with you again and go through them. And if you want to go public with them, that's fine too, because there's a few things in bloods that go up slightly, like the blood urea nitrogen goes up because you're eating more protein, that goes up, and the optimal ranges you see, which are what are called normative values for bloods, they're not based on optimal health, they're just average from the average Joe, and 88% of people given blood have some sort of issue. So it's always worth looking at the nuance of bloods. Anyway, that's an offer for you there if you want that. And I think you've hit on something I think is really interesting. You look great, you feel great, and people still worry. So the thing is, you've just got to keep doing it, Bradley, and just be the example. And look at how you used to eat and how you looked. I mean, to me, it's strange. It is really strange. So I won't take up any more of your precious time. I mean, I could talk about this for a lot longer.
You said a point before. Have you gone back to your doctors? And I thought that was an interesting thing to talk about, because I actually did go back to the doctor, a specialist that I saw, and I said to him, I opened the conversation like this: have you ever had any patients that have cured themselves of their eczema just with diet? And he says, no, it's very uncommon. I think diet is completely unrelated to eczema. Eczema is a surface layer thing. It's on the skin. It's nothing to do with diet. And I said, well, that's in its start. I already knew when I was a kid. Doctors used to tell me that as a kid, and I used to think that's not true, because when I eat McDonald's, my skin gets really bad. So I was already questioning them then. But in response to that, as I said, well, I might be your first patient then. And I got out this book, Paul Saladino's book, The Carnivore Code. Said, this has changed my life. Look at my skin, because he wanted to see my skin anyway for an inspection. And look how good it looks. And the first thing he said was, I don't know, Bradley. There's still some red marks around your fingers, and there's still some red marks here. I still think you could actually benefit from a biologic like Dupixent. And I said, unbelievable. In my mind, I didn't verbalize this, but I was thinking, how bad it was before. You saw how shocking it was, to the point where I was getting sepsis in my blood. And look how good I look now, and you're still recommending Dupixent. I said, it's almost insidious. And this, I don't blame doctors, because I feel like they've studied everything that the medical doctrines are telling them to study. And so a lot of them perhaps are not savvy to alternate medicines that Paul Saladino and Sean Baker are recommending in terms of diet. I mean, Sean Baker, I think it was him, he even was taken off as a doctor. Like, he had to retire
his license. Yeah.
Because he was recommending the carnivore diet, and they accused him of malpractice. I mean, it's just really absurd, but it's insidious in a way, because hope is a very important thing. But I feel like when these doctors, like when I was in the hospital, this doctor was telling me, you don't need to suffer like this. You can play the piano again, and you can be happy again. And they give you so much hope. You can have your life back. I was telling him, I want to move up to Brisbane, which is like the top of Australia, because it's tropical there. It's like if you're in America, you go from New York down to Florida. And so I was thinking of doing that. And the doctor was like, you don't have to leave your parents. You don't have to move state. Just go on this drug. Here's the drug. And I'm just thinking to myself, this is really insidious, because I did so much research online. I'm in these chats on Facebook where all these people are taking Dupixent, and it's even a known side effect that it causes conjunctivitis and facial flares.
Mm.
And a lot of these people have cataracts now, and they have eye problems, and they burn easy when they go in the sun. And a lot of them have their liver, I forget exactly what it is, but their liver levels are really high and it's unhealthy. And yes, they look good on the surface, but ultimately it is immunosuppressant. Again, it's just like if you're driving a car and the petrol light's going off saying fill up, it's just like putting a band-aid on that and just saying, you know what, my car's fine. And it's really not. You're destroying your insides and you just look good on the outside. And so a lot of people I talk to, they get really upset when I say, I really don't want to try Dupixent because I feel like it's not healthy. I feel like my body is releasing these toxins. It's trying to release these things from my body, showing it on my eczema for a reason. It's trying to get the things out. Like,
Yes.
I forget who said it, but there was this doctor who said, the reason why asthma, eczema, allergies are all related is because what the doctors recommend is suppressing it. And so when you suppress one thing, it can't express itself now in eczema, and so it manifests itself deeper in your system and starts to express itself with asthma. And then when you suppress that with Ventolin, then it forms in allergies. And so really, we need, your body's leaking all of this eczema for a reason, and the most unhealthiest thing you could do is to block it. And
Yes.
people were telling me, oh, it's not an immunosuppressant, you're just blocking interleukin, which is just one thing, it's just targeting. I'm like, I really don't want to go down that train. I mean, yeah, it's just, I guess, it's like diabetes in a sense. Like I'd be taking 2 injections per month, and then 24 injections per year, and then 480 injections in 20 years. And when is it going to end? And every single time I'm injecting myself with like all of these preservatives that I don't know. I'm already monitoring my diet as it is. I just felt like it was very unhealthy. And it's insidious in a way that doctors are giving false hope, because I see a lot of these people online and they feel so optimistic. I'm going to try this. In America, it's like $50,000 a year. Luckily in Australia, it's only $40 because it's subsidized. But they give so much false hope. They're just like, look, I'm so happy now. I'm on Dupixent. And then 4 weeks into it or a year into it, they say it's not working. And then because they had that hope, it's, even if you're like a Batman fan, the Joker says there's nothing worse than having hope being destroyed.
Yes.
Like they get this hope and then they're just completely destroyed because the medicines all fail them. And that's why I think it's so insidious, because it's almost like you're pushing these drugs, but they just don't work in the long term. You can't use it long term. And there is, I have to fact check this, but there is no real long-term studies done on Dupixent because it's a new drug that's only been around for the past 5 to 10 years, if that. So
Yeah,
I really believe carnivore diet. Diet is the fundamental thing, as well as exercise and holistic health. It's all there available to us. And of course, I guess you can't really profit off it. I don't know if, like, a lot of people are talking about, like, what are the reasons why meat is not being shared, or like, why is it that only drugs are the cure? And again, there's a lot of reasons why it could be. A lot of people don't want to change their whole lifestyle, and it's easier to just have like a quick fix drug, and maybe there's money to be made. But honestly, the answer is holistic health, stress levels reduced, exercise, sauna, cold water therapy, meat, diet. Yeah.
Brilliant. Bradley, it's really obvious that you're very passionate about this. So, I will, if you want to take me up on the bloods, I'll definitely do that. I'd love to do a follow-up in some period of time, maybe 3 or 4 months, to see how you're getting on, if you don't mind. But I'm going to thank you for, coming on. Is there anything else you want to add before you go? Because obviously you're pouring your heart out now. It's great. Is there anything you want to say?
Not really. I think I've said everything I need to say. It's been a pleasure to be on this podcast, and I thank you for giving me the time. And I loved it.
Thank you for watching the video. That's really much appreciated. And I've now selected one of these videos for you, which is one of my more popular videos. And there's also one here that you might find interesting. The other thing you can do is smash me in the face if you want to subscribe. Don't forget to subscribe